Hey guys, so this time I'm going to bring you a speed paint of a Magic the Gathering Altar, which is where you take a Magic the Gathering card and using very thin acrylic layers, you either extend the art or change the art in some way. Now normally I only do border extensions, which is when you take the artwork and you extend it beyond the frame while still maintaining the text box, the name and everything intact so that it could still be used to play the game. But recently on Reddit, I found a different kind of altar, which is a full art altar. I think it was of Noble Hierarch. And instead of extending the artwork across the border was still maintained, and instead the artwork flowed into the text box. And since everybody knows what Noble Hierarch does, and everybody knows what Gilded Lotus does, I chose Gilded Lotus to try this out for the first time. Now, when you want to alter a Magic the Gathering card, it's always a good idea to use blue painter's masking tape on the back. As you can see here on the video, I forgot to cut it down, I'll do that later. But this stops the paint from going onto the back of the card and while marking it in case you ever want to use it. And you end up using it with thinner card sleeves, the paint on the back of the card will kind of show through and you might get in trouble. It all depends on the judge of where place you're using it. But I mainly play Commander and only Commander, so it doesn't really matter all that much. So the first step when you want to alter a Magic card is to put down a basic layer of gray. Just a very either dark gray or light gray depending on what the overall tone of the piece is going to be. So you can see I'm doing that right now. Kind of messed up. I should have used a bigger brush now that I think about it. If you end up painting over part of the border or painting over part of something you don't want to paint, just take a wet toothpick and just scratch it off very lightly and you'll be fine. So for this piece, I chose Gilded Lotus because not only is it a very well-known piece so no one's going to mind the text box covered, but the artwork is really pretty. It's one of my favorite Magic the Gathering artworks. And it seemed like a pretty good first attempt because it's just going to be extending the water down and then putting those little lilies in. Now, after you put the base layer on, a good idea is to take a very thin pencil and just kind of roughly sketch out what the painting's going to be, what the extended artwork's going to be. And I did that here by just sketching out a couple more lily pads and the above water lily pads. I don't know what they're called. And then I went in with a thin layer of like a very, very thin layer of blue, like a darkish, muddied blue. Now I did this because, and you can barely see it, and this is on purpose, because when you alter a Magic card, you want to water down your acrylic paints to the point where they don't add that much thickness to the card. Because if you put in a thick layer of paint, you're going to be able to feel it when you're shuffling or feeling it when you're drawing it, and it makes it so that you can easily cheat out a card from shuffling, because if you have one card that is altered and it's like 1.5 times the thickness of a regular Magic card, you're going to be able to feel it and just stack it on top of your deck. I don't like that. So it's always good to just thin your paints as much as you can, even if you can barely see them at the beginning, because that means you're not going to get, you know, a penalty for marking the cards. Although this is mainly for tournament play when you're with your friends or playing Commander like I do, it really doesn't matter. But I do it out of just being a good habit. Now here I just put in a light paint of, a light layer of green for the lily pads on the floor. The lily pads on the water are a lot lighter than the lily pads up top. Not exactly sure how that works out with the light source coming in from the top, but it's how the artist presented it, so I'm just copying it over. A good idea to do this is, much like any other painting, you just do a mid-tone across the piece. So in this case the lily pads, I just chose a color most closely matching the one from the original artwork and just put it in across the whole thing first, and then later on I go back and do the shading and the detail work. Now, the reason I stopped doing the lily pads on the floor and started doing the lily pads above water is because I put way too much water and too much paint on the lily pad on the left and the middle on the left. So you can see it's still globbed up and it doesn't look good, and I can't really do another layer on top of wet paint. So I just went back and extended the stalks on the other lily pads. And I think here I just start switching up a little bit. I tried extending the little plant veins with a light green on the middle above water lily pad. Again, I don't know what they're called, but I didn't like how it looked, so later on in the video you'll see I just paint over it completely. The one on the bottom though, it was fine. I just did with a very thin brush. And I realized I didn't get the color right, so I just went back over it with another layer of a slightly darker green. It was all pretty good. Overall, this piece, I like it. It was my first attempt of ever trying something like this, and it was relatively easy compared to other advanced Magic card altering techniques. Like, I can't do Mosaic Magic the Gathering Alters I've tried, I have failed. They are extremely difficult. It's when you make the artwork of the card so that you select one object in the picture and leave it, you don't touch it. So in this case it would be the Lotus, and then you make everything else in the card look like if it was a stained glass piece. And I can't. I don't have the skill set for it yet. I'll put up a picture of what a Mosaic Magic card looks like right now, but yeah, they're very difficult. It's extremely difficult to do. But back to the water. I didn't really know how to do the transparent, dirty water, so I just took some artistic liberties and just stroked the piece with very light, thin blue lines. So it looks like it's not necessarily calm water, but it's just going there. I did white and a very light blue to kind of just give it the sense of like the lily pads are flowing through and the water isn't perfectly still. Now I messed up there by putting way too much water on the paint when it pressed on the card. So what you normally do in that case is you just take a paper towel and just lightly dab it to pick up the water. You try not to touch it too much, because then the paint will smear. It's acrylic paint with water, it'll just smear everywhere, and you don't want to do that. So I just kept doing just little strokes throughout the water. It was fun. It was the first time I ever did a technique like this to paint water, so it was fun. I think after this, I just started putting in the final touches on the lily pads on the bottom, because you know how they look really flat right now? I just went in with a darker green and just did the slight shadows on it, but that's a little bit later when that happens. Yep, right here. Oh, no, wait, not here. A little later. Yeah, watching this in real time alongside you guys. I don't know why I took so much of a pause to do nothing there. Yep, here we go. That's where I start doing the dark green shadowish. Because if you look at the lily pads on the water above in the original artwork, they have a slight blackish outline near the bottom, which is mainly just the shadows from the light source coming in from the bottom down. I mean from the top down. Sorry. And then I think after this I just I redo that entire piece because I didn't like how that looked at all. Just went over that with a darker green. I had to paint over the original lily pad to fix it, and I didn't want to do that, but I had to at that point. There was no fixing it. When the paint gets too dry, you can't use the toothpick to fix it, because you'll end up just scratching the original card, and it dents it, and it also just messes up the original artwork, and I don't like that. So I think, yeah, I just go back to fix the big lily pads, because those are kind of a pain to get the right color in. Color matching is the best skill you can learn, and it should be the first skill you learn before you try Magic the Gathering altering, or just altering any trading card in general. Yeah, here I take a slightly thinner brush and just very lightly go through where the veins would be. Try to follow the overall folding pattern of the lily pad. Doing the top first, and then I move on to the smaller ones. Anyway, I hope you like this video, guys. It wasn't that difficult of one, but I really love how it looks. Yeah, here I'm just showing it off a little bit. If you have any suggestions as to other Magic the Gathering cards you want me to alter, go right ahead. I'll see if I have them in my collection. I have a couple old ones. Anything from original Ravnica to recent sets, I have a bunch of random commons and uncommons and a couple rares that I could do. So just leave in a comment as to whether you like this video. If you have any suggestions for other cards, let me know. And if you like this video and want more card alter speed paints, subscribe and share with your friends. Thank you. Oh, and here's the last bit. You just take the blue masking tape off, and you could just put it in a sleeve along the original. See, I use the regular Gilded Lotus in my Is It Artifact deck, and I use the Gilded Lotus I altered in my Pirate deck. Anyway, thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next week.